everything you kept us. Your grace and mercy above. And we know that you are a good God. And we are here now, God, seeking speak to matters concerning creating concerning this meeting will be done with you at heart and Father with you in mind. I pray God that you will touch everything concerning this meeting. I pray God that you guide and protect everybody. Pray Lord that you just be that covering influence. Just send your Holy Spirit, God, to lead us as God with you in our vessel. We smile at any storm. So Father, whatever it is that we seek to tackle, I pray that it will be done with you in heart, God. And Father, you are not the author of confusion, Father, but you are the peace speaker. You step in and say, peace be still. So I know everything will be done according to your plan. So just have your way today, God, as we leave everything in your hands. In Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Well, let us powerful in the I must say, a welcome to everyone that is present here and persons who will join further on. It is indeed a blessing for all of us to have endured through these.
It's Johnson afternoon. We're here in the next meeting.
Here in the next meeting. That we are faced with a lot of difficulties. Everyone, COVID and other stuff. But once we put our trust
Johnson,
in the Lord,
please mute your mic. Good to go.
Okay, third formers, parents, teachers, students, we will begin in a little while. Let me apologize for the late start. Reason being, there was another meeting in progress, which ended a little late. So let us give others a chance to join, maybe another 5 minutes, and then we'll begin. Pleasant good afternoon to everyone.
Good afternoon.
Okay, I know I'm being heard. Let me welcome you to this meeting.
Good afternoon.
I'm going to be starting with devotion. Our meeting is now called to order, and I'll ask Mrs. Coley and her group to do devotion for us just now.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'll be calling on Alicia Nugent and Sanjay Bradrick to assist me in carrying out the devotion this afternoon. So could Sanjay and Alicia unmute their mics, please?
Good afternoon.
Good evening.
All right, so they're here. Alicia would be our moderator for today. Alicia, you may begin.
The theme for today is depth of love. We will now sing two lively choruses. We are together again, and we'll.
All right, so we are together again after 2, 1, 2. We are together again, just praising the Lord. We are together again in one accord. Something good is going to happen. Something good is in store.
We are
We are
together
together again,
just
just
praising the
praising the
Lord.
Lord.
We
Christ so real to me.
I love it
Because he gave us the victory.
Many
Many
people
people
love it,
love him, but
but
I
I
can't
love
do
it.
without him. That
That
is
is
why
why
I love him so. He's
he's
so
so
real to me.
sweet.
Right?
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father and our God, thank you for bringing us here today. Thank you for blessing us. Thank you for keeping us healthy, even though we are in a pandemic, dear Lord Jesus. Thank you for providing for us. Thank you for blessing us and giving us life and continue to bless us. Let us retain what we will learn today. In your name I pray, amen.
Amen.
Our daily reading will be done by Sanjay Bradley.
Good evening again, everybody. 3-year-old Dylan McCoy had just learned to swim when he fell through a rotten plywood covering into a 40-foot deep stone wall well in his grandfather's backyard. Dylan managed to stay afloat in 10 feet of water until his father went down to rescue him. Firefighters brought ropes to raise the boy, but the father was so worried about his son that he already climbed down the slippery rocks to make sure he was safe. Oh, the love of a parent! Oh, the lengths and depths we will go for our children. when the Apostle John writes to the believers of the early church who were struggling to find footing for their faith as false teaching swirled about them. He extends these words like a life preserver. First John 3, verse 1. See what great love the Father has lavished on us, that we should be called children of God, and that is what we are. Naming believers in Jesus as children of God was intimate and legal labeling that brought validity to all who trust in him. Over the lengths and depths God will go for his children. They are actions a parent will take only for their child, like Dylan's dad descending into a well to save his son. And like the ultimate act of our Heavenly Father, who sent his only Son to gather us close to his heart and restore us to life with him. That is the end of our daily reading.
We will now have the thought of the day by Mrs. Beckford Foley.
Right. Well, my thought, I went and did some research. It's not really something for you to remember off the bat like that, but I did my research, and my thought is the depths of the love of our parents for their children cannot be measured. It is like no other relationship. It exceeds concerns for life itself. The love of a parent for a child is continuous and transcends heartbreak and disappointment. And what I got from this was that no matter what you think, you might think your parent is roughing you or behaving badly with you. No matter what, they will always love you. All right. And they try to do their best for you always. All right. I'll hand over to Mrs. Mack.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Coley, and the students who took part in our brief devotion. I think the message is clear. And just to let you know, children, that you are loved. There's no doubt about it, that you are loved. Loved by your parents, and by extension, I must say, loved by your teachers. The privilege is mine now to welcome all of you who are here today. On behalf of myself, on behalf of all the form teachers, Miss S. Gordon, Miss S. Norman, Miss T. Thompson, Miss M. Grant, Mrs. Beckford Coley, and Mr. Perry, I say to parents, students, and all well-wishers who are here this evening, welcome. We are happy that you have joined us for this meeting. And this meeting is very important because we are all partners in the business of education. I want to also extend to all of you a happy new year. Many of us are happy to see the back of 2020, and we are looking forward to this new year to see what it brings. It is a year of possibility, but I must also add that it is a year of uncertainty, because many of us know that the COVID situation is fluid. We know that there are no new variants, but we will not fear. And we are not going to see it as a setback. And that is why we are meeting here today, so that we can plan and that we can continue with our lives. Because one thing is sure, students, you have to move forward, because you have to fulfill your educational goals, and you also have to fulfill your career goals. So let us embrace the possibilities of this year One singer, the OJ, says, we are all in this thing together. I suppose many of you younger ones won't know it, but it says, we are all in this thing together. We're going to work it out. And that's what we are here today to start doing. Working it out, working out the future of your education. So I say to you, welcome. And I do hope that this will be a very productive meeting. Now, the aim of the meeting. Why are we here today? Number one, we are here for information. And number two, we are here to get your views because we want your feedback. We value your input. All of you, both students, parents, teachers, we value your input. So we are going to be asking you to give us your ideas when the time comes, verbally or in the chat. But the aim of it is to give information, to get your feedback. And our main item on the agenda today is the proposed face-to-face reopening of school. Now, I want you to know that this is not solely dependent on the school, as you would have known, because many have been asking, other schools are opening, Miss, why isn't Morant Bay opening? When are we going back to school? It is not solely dependent on our school, but the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Education both play a part. Now, the Ministry of Health assess the school, and of course we have checklists that we have to ensure that we fulfill before we can be considered for reopening. And then the Ministry of Education also have to pass us, they have to suit themselves that everything is in place for the safety of the students, for the safety of the teachers, in fact, for the safety of all the stakeholders on the compound. So until that happens, we are not going to be considered for face-to-face. But just to inform you that we are working on it. As a school, we are working on it. All right, let me just give you an overview of last term. It was a rough start, as many of you would admit. Students, teachers, parents too. It was really a rough start. We were not quite familiar with the Google Classroom, and there were lots of challenges in maneuvering the Google platform. But thanks be to God, we can say we have learned from our errors and we are doing well on that platform. I must also say thank you to the parents. Parents, some of you have been very patient with us, and we just want to say thank you very much. You were there as we worked things out through your complaint, through your feedback, and of course, through your commendation. We learn and we have grown as a year. So I say thank you very much. I must also mention to you that we have our concerns. The total number of students in the year is 233. We, in November, up to that time, we had not gotten in touch with 20 of our students. 20 of our students did not log on any at all. I must say, I checked just before coming here, and that number has been reduced to only 4. And to those 4, we are going to try and ensure that they too can log on for this term, because our motto is nobody must be left behind. Now, of the 213 who logged on at the beginning of last term, we had an average attendance of 173. 173. And I must hasten to tell you that although many students registered in the mornings for their classes, many did not attend classes throughout the day. I must sympathize with those who had difficulties. Yes, we know of it. Connectivity issues, device issues. I really sympathize with you because I know that some would really want to log on, really want to be involved in their education, but they were not able to do so. But I must also mention that some students were quite irresponsible. There were some who had no problems whatsoever, no connectivity problem, had devices, but they did not attend their classes. And of course, there were some of you students who had your devices in classes while you went elsewhere. So teachers will tell you that when they were ready to close down their classroom, there were some devices still in the classroom. No response could be gotten from the owners of those devices because they simply turned on their devices and they were elsewhere. Of course, that was not good enough. So to those of you who were responsible, oh, I must commend some students. Some were so anxious. Some were just eager to learn. But on the other hand, to those of you who were irresponsible, I am going to ask that you make a difference. Make a difference this term. Please note, you are not hurting anybody but yourself when you play truant from the online classes. So I'm going to ask, please make a difference. Parents, I'm going to ask that you be more vigilant. They do know how to maneuver this platform better than me and than you. And please ensure that you find ways to check up on your children to ensure that they are at classes. Okay. Now, assessments were done. I suppose some were not at classes when those were done, but they were done for the months of October, November. And in December, the assessment was done on the exam conditions. I will inform your parents that a few of your children cheated on this assessment. Well, I don't know about the other two, but I know for the December one, and the teachers will tell you. The teacher, many of the responses were Google responses. So we know that while the assessment was going on, they were on the Google platform and they were copying. But all this assessment, the December assessment, as well as October, November, will be in the form of a progress report, which is being put together at present and will be made available sometime after January the 25th. So parents will give you more information as to how you can go ahead and view your child's progress report. And from that, of course, you will see those who have been attending classes, those who have not been attending classes, even though they had no difficulty. And you yourselves, parents, would have known of the difficulties why some of your children are not getting grades for these subjects. All right, but overall, I must say it was a good term, and we look forward to things getting even better. All right. So now I am going to be looking at the matter of face-to-face. Mr. Logan? Mr. Logan? Oh, thank you very much. Okay. Now, beginning next Monday, all students of Morant Bay High School will be having virtual classes. First, right through to sixth form, will have virtual classes beginning January 11. And of course, we are going to continue with the same timetable. Now, I mentioned earlier that our face-to-face meeting is not only dependent on us at Morant Bay High School. We are still awaiting the approval of the Ministry of Health and of the Ministry of Education. Until they have given us the green light to go ahead and invite students in for face-to-face, we cannot do that. Please note, we cannot until we get the approval of the Ministry of Health and Ministry of Education. However, we are putting things in place because the checklist that we have been asked to fulfill, we are working on them even now. So we are hoping that very soon we will get the approval and be able to go face-to-face. So we are considering January 18, 2021 as the date to start our face-to-face interaction. And we are going to be doing it on a phased basis. So for that week, we will be inviting 5th and 6th formers only to come in. 5th and 6th formers only for the week of January 18, 2021. It means then that all other students will be on the virtual platform. Then on the 25th, we will ask the 4th formers to join the 5th and the 6th formers in the face-to-face interaction. 1st to 3rd form students will be having virtual classes. So then, 3rd formers, as you see, for the entire month of January, beginning from the 11th, you will be having virtual classes. Then we will go. Mr. Logan?
I'm trying to. Yes.
Okay. All right. So the 1st to 3rd form will continue having virtual classes until February the 26th. So by the end of February, the upper school, 5th and 6th would have completed 5 weeks of face-to-face teaching. 4th form would have completed 4 weeks of face-to-face teaching. And the lower school 1st to 3rd form would have completed their 6 weeks of virtual teaching. We are proposing, and please remember, I told you of the conditions. We are proposing that on March 1st, you 3rd formers will be invited in for face-to-face interaction. March 1st. Now, we have 2 proposals here, and they are based on 2 weeks rotation. The first option, and I want you to look at these, and I want you to think of them because we need your feedback, students, and we need your feedback, parents. Remember, I said this is a partnership, so we all will work things out together. Now, there are some who are saying there is to be balance, and therefore, upper school and lower school should be given the same face-to-face time. So that is option 1. Option 1, beginning March 1, is saying that the lower school will come in face-to-face for 1 week while the upper school is online. And then week 2, The upper school will come in for face-to-face, while the lower school is online. And then we will have that process being repeated. But on the other hand, there are some of us who are saying the upper school need more face-to-face time. They have lost out on teaching time. They have practicals to be done, and they need more time than the lower school. Hence, we came up with the second option. The second option goes like this: starting March 1, for week 1, lower school, that includes third formers, first to third formers, will come in for 3 days, only, Monday to Wednesday. And then the upper school will be online during this time. Then the Thursday and Friday of that first week, we will invite the upper school to be in for face-to-face. And then also for week 2, the upper school will be in for face-to-face. That will, for option 2 then, the upper school will be in 5 days plus 2 days, 7 days over the 2-week period, and the lower school will be in for 3 days. Now, I just want a brief feedback here. I cannot take everybody's feedback. There is going to be an opportunity for everybody to give their feedback on a Google form that will be sent out to everybody. But right now in the chat, I would like you, maybe about 10 parents, 10 students, just to indicate whether they would want option 1, option 2. Just put option 1. You can put OP1, OP2.
I'm seeing one option 2 so far. Everything else is
It's
option
option
1.
1.
And then
2,
2
3.
option 2, 3, but it's mainly option 1.
All right. No, the thing is, I tell you the truth, Mrs. Coley, I really expected that because this is third form. And I know that some of them are anxious to come back to school. So as I said, you will have an opportunity. This is an ongoing discussion. You will have an opportunity to make your voices heard. And this will be taken into consideration, whether it is the first option or the second option. Now, thank you very much, Mr. Logan. Okay, now, based on that, I want you to know that you have a part to play. All of you have a part to play because you have to get yourselves prepared. What do I mean by that? To come back to school, you will only be admitted in your uniforms. And by that, I mean your correct uniform. So second formers, you have approximately 6 weeks. Parents, you have approximately 6 weeks in which to ensure that your child is ready to come back to school physically. Physically, uniform, bags, books, all the necessary tools and equipment in place. Please ensure that that is done. Now, I don't want to hear the week before somebody is calling to say, Miss, I just did my hair and I put in braids. Can I come to school with the braids? You have 6 weeks in which to prepare yourselves physically. And of course, we begin on the 11th, so all the braids should have been removed by then. So please ensure that you prepare yourselves. Students, I'm going to repeat it. Please ensure that you prepare yourselves physically for the back to school. Then of course you have to ensure that you are prepared emotionally, psychologically. And I'm going to be asking Mr. Logan to briefly tell you what that entails, mental and the physical and the psychological preparation.
Good afternoon, everyone. Please forgive me, I am not able to open my camera at this time. Nonetheless, I want to greet you. It is good to be here this afternoon. We have been on an irregular school schedule, and then we went off into the holiday break, so it's good to be back. Now, as we look forward to this school term, this continuation of this irregular school year, there are certain things that we must bear in mind when we are now looking forward to coming back to physical school or face-to-face interaction. Now, COVID-19 pandemic doesn't seem like it will be slowing down anytime soon. But nonetheless, things still go on, the world still go on, the work must get done. Hence, we are preparing for face-to-face interaction. Now, please bear in mind, students, parents, our health and safety is our number one priority. That's first and foremost. And I am sure that whatever plans the school is putting in place, our health and safety, and our health now means students, teachers, all workers, all members of staff, even visitors to the compound. Health and safety will be number one priority. And even while the school is looking out for health and safety, our personal responsibility is to take care of said health and safety. Now, health and safety involves all the precautions, really COVID-19, all the other precautions before, and there's a buzzword that would have been started during the pandemic, and that is psychosocial. Now we have to ensure that we maintain a positive mental space. So this means that even with all the stress and the challenges and the anxiety that comes up because of the pandemic and the other areas of our lives, we have to ensure that some way, somehow, whether it be reaching out to somebody who can help, whatever the case is, we must maintain a positive psychosocial space, a positive mental space. And that's one of the reasons why we have two guidance counselors here at Martin Bay High School. Going into the new school term, we will be continuing our guidance sessions, we will be continuing our activities, and we'll be adding more to the activities that we do from our department. If you are not a part of the guidance Google Classroom, then kindly send me or Miss Johnson, that's guidance counselor Miss Johnson, an email so that we can ensure that you are added, because that is where most of those activities will take place. And when we eventually get back to face-to-face school, physical interaction, we will take that over there. But please remember, students, do not be afraid to reach out to myself, reach out to Ms. Johnson. If you want to reach out to your form teacher or your year teacher, principal, vice principal, a subject teacher, just reach out to somebody, speak to your parents, whatever the case is. At the third form level, our main focus from our department, or one of our focuses for this year, is career education. So for last term, we started our career program. In years gone by, in March thereabout, we would have had our career week and our career expo, where we would invite persons onto the school compound to set up booths and do presentations and speak with them, speak with the students. But obviously, that might not be possible this year. So what we did, or what we will be continuing, is our online career program. All students were given a career test to do, and there will be the results of that was to be submitted. I think most of them would have submitted, if not all, and the results will be analyzed and they'll be grouped, and we'll have some activities kind of directing them to possible areas, career focuses. Parents, these are conversations that I implore you to start having with your children from now, the direction that the world of work is going, the emerging careers, the importance of hard work and so on, so that they can ensure that they prepare for a wonderful future as it relates to moving on into the world of work. But I do encourage us to work with what is happening, use wisdom. I hope wisdom shall prevail in our individual cases. Look at what's happening around you and ensure that the decisions that are made for your personal safety and the personal and the safety of your child or children. God bless you. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you very much, Mr. Logan. Mrs. Ford Bryan, are you in the meeting yet? Mr. Logan, can you help me? Is Mrs. Ford Bryan in the meeting yet?
Yes, I am in the
meeting.
meeting.
You are here. Okay, Mrs. Ford Bryan.
I have been in the meeting.
Oh, you have been from the beginning. All right, let me welcome you, Mrs. Ford Bryan. And just before we take the question and answer, can I ask you to address the students and parents?
Certainly, I'll do that. Let me just say openly, Mrs. McDermott, you did an excellent job in the explanation and the overview of the Christmas term, as well as the explanation of our options. And Mr. Logan, great job as well. I will use this opportunity to greet all my parents, all my students, all stakeholders. New year, new 2021, and the start of a second term of school year. And as was said earlier, 2020 we know was extremely challenging. And there is no guarantee that 2021 is going to be even less challenging. But what we know definitely is that we have hope, we have life, so we have hope. And we are going to be very hopeful that when we pull together and we strengthen each other and we work together as partners, we will make it happen. So welcome all to our parents, students, and other stakeholders, members of staff. Welcome. Thank you.
Okay, parents and students, based on what was said earlier, I know you might have some questions. So at this time, the floor is open. You can verbally ask your questions, or you can put it in the chat. Whether you are on the Zoom platform or you are on the Facebook platform, you can put it in the chat. So at this time, the floor is open for questions. All right, let me throw out a question that will begin the question session. Parents who are here, are you okay with your children coming back to school? Are you face to face? Are you comfortable in that area?
No.
Let's have another probing question. Do you have any concerns about your child coming back to school face to face? Any concerns? Anything you want to ask us if we might have in place or what we are doing and how we can make the transition a little bit more comfortable?
Mrs. Ford Bryan, Miss Small here. Afternoon.
Hi, Miss Small. Good afternoon.
I was just saying maybe you could advise them if their child have any underlying illness, the steps they would take and so forth when they're coming back to school. Or if they don't want the child to be back to school, what they would have to do too. I did hear them mention that. Thanks.
Okay, will do. I see another question in the chat was told that 3R will not have a math teacher. Is that true? That is not true to my knowledge. And yes, I'm comfortable because I was having a lot of issues. Good. So back to what Miss Small was saying, and Miss Small is the PTA president. So of course, what we want to ensure and what we want parents to do as well is to ensure that we get all the requisite documentation concerning your child. If your child is experiencing any underlying issues, comorbidities as they would call it, you can send in a doctor's certificate to explain what type of condition your child has, because what we don't want is for the child to come to school and expose themselves to any greater danger. So we need to get that information, ensure that the form teacher or the year teacher or even or the guidance counselor gets that information, ensure that it comes into the school so that we can make the necessary preparation, provision for learning kits, or to have video recorded lessons be sent to students, but we need to know the students who we are working with underlying conditions. We would not want them to come here and expose themselves to greater danger. So a document, as Mrs. McDermott made mention of, on that very same Google form, there would be a section on it that would speak to you identifying the comorbidities that your child will be experiencing. And we want supporting evidence from your doctor to state exactly what these underlying issues are.
Okay, I see here where.
Mrs. Ford Bryan, can I speak?
Go ahead.
Okay, I want to find out if you have additional support or staff for sanitization, because that would be very, very important. Because my school was one of the first schools on the pilot, and we had to get additional support for sanitization. So I'm just wondering if you have additional staff for sanitization.
Okay, as it relates to additional staff for sanitization, the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information has indicated to us their constraints, their financial constraints as it relates to additional employment, so that we are not at liberty to do that right now. So our current staff is in fact stretched. As it relates to sanitization, though, we are working as teams in order to get the place sanitized, and for the proposed reopening, there are plans in place as to how we will sanitize, but definitely we will be utilizing the assistance of the students themselves to sanitize their own area. Now, what we have decided to do is that we will be doing deep cleaning sanitization at strategic points of the day. But what we are currently doing also is to construct a document that we will send home to the parents, so that the parents are aware of some of the items that we want the children to travel with. Their own hand sanitizer. They are to walk with their masks, of course. They can walk with their wipes so that they can do their own little sanitization as they move from one place to another. But as it relates to the deep cleaning, we will have our ancillary staff going in early in the morning, thorough sanitization. After lunch, we will not be having lunch and break. So we will only be having lunch. So after lunch, a thorough sanitization will be taking place, and after school. So pretty much that's what we have within the in-house. Early in the morning, we will be doing sanitization as they come through the gate. We have wash hand areas set up at strategic points. We have about 15 of those throughout the school, and on each block, on each level, we will have dispensers that will have sanitizers in them. For this weekend, we will be getting some additional wash and areas, and we will be putting up an additional one at the front so that we don't have the built up of population as they come in early in the morning. Regarding that, in terms of sanitization coming in the morning, we are appealing to for parents who can assist with the gate duties in the morning to volunteer and to make their volunteerism known to the year coordinator or directly to me or the PTA president. We are asking for assistance because of ourselves, we know that it will not be smooth sailing. So we are cognizant of the fact that sanitization is of importance, but strategically, we are positioning persons at crucial area so that regular sanitization can be done. This will include the restroom areas. And because we are not having an influx of persons at the canteen and lunches will be delivered to students, that won't take so much of the sanitization right there because we won't have the traffic. So we are putting in place some strategic plans to reduce the population built up at any one area, as well as to ensure that all protocols are followed according to the Ministry of Health as well as the Ministry of Education. Ms. Basco, did that answer your question or do you have a follow-up?
No, that's good. That's good. I'm satisfied with your answer.
Thank you so much. Any other questions in the chat?
There's one question there that says, good evening, my child was unable to do his exams, I suppose December assessment, and wasn't able to attend school for November and December. How will he catch up?
I do hope that based on what you are saying as a parent, that this information was communicated to form teacher, your coordinator, as well as the guidance counselor. No, I am concerned that if there is a child among us now who for all of November was not able to get any online learning in and was unable to do the December, and this was not communicated to us. The guidance counseling department actually has a list working with, and there are persons we are trying to reach out to, but it is also the responsibility of the parents to reach out to us to tell us exactly what is happening. So we would have to do further investigation on this student to find out how far behind this student is. Definitely as a school, Mark Bay High School will be doing their assessment, and as we move forward, our curriculum committee will be meeting to see what needs to happen, our curriculum concerning how far back we need to bring our students up to pace to where they need to be. So there will be continuous curriculum committee meetings to see as we move forward, assessing where our students are at and seeing exactly how we can bring them up to par to where they ought to be at the third form level in preparation for fourth form. So I do hope that that parent will seize this opportunity now to contact the guidance counselor, your teacher or the form teacher, and give some details so we know exactly a case-by-case basis what it is that we are working with.
One student here is asking about the additional transport. Mrs. Ford Brand, will there be special additional transport for students to school?
To date, I cannot speak directly to that because the Ministry of Education is still working through that. I know that there is actually a discussion taking place with Ministry of Transport and the Ministry of Education, which is outside of our scope. But there is also a rural transportation system running through the guidance department tied in with the Ministry of Education. And we are sourcing transportation for certain routes, problematic routes, particularly for students who are on path. So that is for students on path. Currently, I can say to you that the school bus is out of use. It will not be able to be in full effect for January, not certain about February. And so we don't have the school bus as a plausible alternative for transportation. If we are going to take on additional transportation, that's additional expense upon us. But the only one I know about right now that we are currently working on to get up and running is the rural transportation system going through the Guidance Council department, and particularly for students on path. Maybe Mr. Logan can speak about that a little bit more, but that's where we are at. As it relates to employing additional transportation, outside of that, then it would be a no. And so we are imploring parents, if of course you can afford it, to have a private transportation, transport your child here, it's in your best interest. But we know the challenges and we know the concerns. Some of the transportation operators are not paying key attention to the protocols that ought to be adhered to. And so we have a more controlled environment on the school, but on the students' way to school, it's not as controlled as we would want it to be. And on their way back home, it is still uncontrolled as well.
There's a question here from YouTube. It is asking, should the student take a long device for learning when coming to school?
Okay, so based on the current situation that we are in, provision will be made for students to take their devices. Of course, there are clear guidelines that must be followed based on face-to-face teaching and learning, and we hope that they will adhere to those guidelines and those will be clearly stipulated. When you ought to have those devices, of course, it has to be when your teachers are instructing you to do so. It cannot be used frivolously. It must not be used outside of educational purposes. All of these will be documented, and we do hope that students will adhere to these, or else these privileges will be taken away. What we want to encourage is the same blended approach. We are moving in an era, a global environment wherein technology is being used. It will not be in the best interest of the students not to have them utilizing their technology during this time. But if it is abused, then we have to do what we have to do as a school. So I do hope that all the measures that we are going to put in place, and we are asking that persons are responsible in their use of these devices.
There are a few persons that came in late and they're asking about the options again, if they could be quickly stated.
Okay, after we take additional questions, then Mrs. McDermott will show those the PowerPoints again, so the options can come up. Can we take other questions? I thought I saw a question pertaining to canteen and additional tuck shops. The canteen will not be in use for or regular use wherein students will go there and purchase. The idea is during the registration process, you will be able to state exactly what you want for your lunch. That will be documented and taken to the canteen. So your orders will be taken, and based on your orders, it will be packaged. We will have students being rotated as lunch monitors to assist with taking up the lunches, and under teacher supervision, these lunches will be distributed in the classroom where the students will be seated in their classrooms and have their lunches. So there will be no lines at the canteen. As it relates to those students who are on the PATH program, the same will work for them. Their lunches will be taken to you at your classes. You will have your lunch there, and then you move on to your other class after the lunch break. So we will not be having additional tuck shop areas nor additional space for canteen. It will not be utilized in the normal way that you're accustomed to.
One student here, Mrs. Fordbrand, wants to have an idea of what a regular day will be like, seeing that there'll be no break time, and you have mentioned that there'll be just lunch. So the students would want to know what the regular day will be like.
Well, the regular day is you will come into school for 7:50. As you come through the gate, you will be seeing quite a few signages. You will be asked to sanitize. We will have a person situated at strategic places at the front of the school to take your register according to your year groups. So if we have 3 year groups coming in, we will already have printed materials with your name, your form. All you need to do is to get your hands sanitized, go up to the table, of course, distancing, and you will see those demarcations. You will give your name. Oh, yes, the temperature check. Sorry. Before you actually enter, your temperature will be taken and the temperature will be recorded. All students' temperatures will be recorded because we need to know exactly if there is a spike or not. So your names will be taken thereafter according to your year group, and you will be instructed to go right to your class, and that will be the class that you will have first on your timetable, or to your form class. There will be adjustment to the timetable. So based on the option that we see that majority of the persons are leaning towards, then adjustments will be made on the timetable, and that will also determine what happens. For lower school, pretty much depends too on which option, because if it is the 1 week option, which is option 1, then we will have to at least spread your classes right across the board as best as possible from Monday to Friday. However, if it is option 2, then all your classes will have to be from Monday to Wednesday. And if that is the case, it means on average, you will have 8 classes per day, and in between, you will have a lunch break. So it would be 4 classes before lunch, 4 classes after. Within the classes, you might be concerned about wearing your mask right throughout. The teachers are going to be flexible, wherein they will give you a 2 minutes to a 3 minutes break within the class, seated in the class, just to remove your mask. During that time, there will be no talking, no interaction. Those persons who might have adverse reaction to wearing the mask for an extended period of time, you may be allowed to go on the corridor for 5 minutes to have a breather, then you return to the classroom. Now, once the mask is going to be removed, we must ensure that all other protocols are adhered to, and it must be supervised. That process must be supervised by a teacher. So pretty much it is going to be something that you are not accustomed to, but it is something that we have to work with, because we have to ensure that all stakeholders are safe. Our students are priority, and you must be safe. If you're walking on the corridor to go to the restroom, you must have on your mask. There will be specified number of students who should be in the restroom at any one point in time. You will see those signages. On the stairwell, there will also be signs indicating how many students should be on the stairwell at any one point. There will be footprints indicating 6 feet distancing on the walking areas. That is what is going to be abided by. In the classrooms, we will be accommodating 15 to 20 students in the classrooms, social distancing at 3 feet apart.
Okay, another question here says, with the new strains of COVID-19, do you think sending the children back to school is the best move? Secondly, how many children will be in each class and would be at the school daily when you have them come in? The plans you have presented are still risky, and the only classes are best and safest. And the only classes are still the safest.
Online, perhaps that's online classes.
Oh, it should be online. Oh, yes, online.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, online.
Okay, so what's the first question there pertaining to if we think it's the best move? Based on our observation and based on data that we have received as an institution. So apart from what the Ministry of Education is promoting, as an institution, we believe that there are many of our students who have not benefited as much as they could from the online process. And the only way we can save our children in the long run is to have some amount of face time with them. Our students here, we have many of them who are scheduled to sit their external examinations. They have lost out a lot. We have internet connectivity issue in various communities. We have many students who don't have devices, many students who have not started their SBAs. And at the third form level, let me not even go to the 5th and 6th formers. At the third form level, we should have our students being exposed as best as possible to all subject areas and to be comfortable in all subject areas for them to make their choices. Because here at third form, they will be doing their options as to the areas they want to specialize in. Many of our students have been disadvantaged. If we keep this up, we know for certain that we are going to face the repercussions in the long run, wherein our academic standards will go down. So apart from Mark Bay High School, trying to see how best we can save our children, the Ministry of Education realizes the challenges as well. And so they have given us the option to start preparing ourselves to see exactly what meets our context, to see how best we can integrate our students into some amount of face time. Remember, I want you to look at the options. One of the options says 3 times for the week. One of the options says the entire week. This is why we are throwing it out. So it will be a week on, week off. Is it safe to say that our children will prosper or will do well academically if we keep them at home all the time? Is it safe for us to say that? So we, as administrators, we understand the concerns, we understand the anxiety as well, but we are trying to break even as best as possible. Can we assist in any other way? We are trying to put things in place to see how best we can assist with the academic progress of our students.
Mrs. Coley, any other question from YouTube?
Just one saying, what about the students that doesn't have any device at home and they are not on pass?
For those students who don't have devices at home and they are not on path, since the last term, we have been sending out Google Form to capture that information. If I think contact needs to be made to the form teacher or to the guidance counselor to see whether or not the name of those students are documented. What is currently happening is that we have stakeholders who are pretty much working seriously to assist with device issues, and they are particularly geared towards satisfying the needs of those students who are not on path. Why? Because the government of Jamaica has made it clear that they will be attending to those students who would be those on path. So we have partners now who are in the process. I can attest to this because I received an email today. They are in fact assisting us with some devices, but through the guidance department, we will prioritize who are the students who are deemed in greatest challenge to get these devices. So it is important that those students who are having device challenges, don't have devices or anything like that, that you fill out the requisite forms when they are sent out to you so that we get the update and we can prioritize who are the students who will be in receipt of the loans of these. And please take this into consideration. They are loans. They are not for the students, and they are contracts that you will have to sign, because we are getting these to assist the students as well as to assist members of staff, but they are not given to you or given to other members of staff as their own. They are loans.
There's another one here. Kindly advise on the 6 feet distancing requirement in the classrooms, considering the number of students and the limited space in the rooms.
Okay, as I said earlier, we are not working with a 6 feet. It is ministry regulation that we work between 3 to 6 feet. The ministry is accepting the 3 feet distancing, and that is what we are working with. Currently, we will have a class of an average of 35 to 40 students. And we can't have a class of 35 to 40 students in one classroom. So that would be split in two. On average, one classroom will be holding 15 to 20 students based on the social distancing. And we have classrooms that can facilitate that at 3 feet. Wherein for upper school, which is perhaps not a concern to third formers, wherein we have different groups and so on, then of course our configuration might be different. But be rest assured that for lower school, we will be splitting the classes. The classes, all 40 students or 35 students will not be placed in one classroom.
Okay. One parent is saying here that for the online classes, all classes should be recorded to the students. So the students can access it at a later time if they miss the class. And she further said, with the school bus being out, it is putting my child at risk to travel on public transportation. And her comment is, online class is still the best option. Going back to school is still at risk.
Okay, and point taken. We know that we don't have 100% foolproof that coming face to face will not be risky, and we know that for the most part, it's risk anywhere. We stay fully 100% online. We are risking the education of our students. We come to school partially face to face. we are still risking based on the health of us, all stakeholders. It is a gamble that we have to work with at this point. And this is why we are not saying 100% FaceTime or 100% online time. And this is also the reason why we are doing a phased approach. We are doing a phased approach because we don't want to bite off too much all at once. We are doing the phase approach that as we move along, we are going to assess the process and we are moving incrementally so that we see exactly what is happening as we move along and we tweak accordingly. Yes, I do take into consideration that with the school bus out, you are at greater risk. But at this point, there is absolutely nothing we can do other than to work towards getting the school bus up and ready to go along.
One student is here asking about the medical. Should we do medical? And the same student wants to know, what about those who don't pay the school fee as yet?
Okay.
Will anybody be excluded?
It is advised that a medical be done in the event that, of course, you want to know if you have any underlying issues, because we are really asking that persons with underlying issues that you make it be known. A medical is required, so you can complete your medical, but please be mindful that when you're going to do your medical, that you practice all the protocols. We don't want you going into a well-crowded office. Please ensure that you take into consideration all the protocols that you need to follow where that is concerned. No child will be exempted from FaceTime or online teaching and learning if the school fee is not paid. We are, however, encouraging that the school fees be paid or arrangements be made so that they can be paid, because we are in a financial constraint as we speak. Please note that school has been out for a while now. The tuck shops and the canteen that would have generated income, we don't have that. And so we need to start gaining some amount of income so that we can actually have additional infrastructural development taking place on the school grounds. So it is important that the school fees are paid, and it is important that you make the necessary arrangement, but be rest assured that no student will be exempted because of lack of payment for school fees.
Okay, these that I'm seeing here, they have already been answered.
I am seeing a question here, Miss saying, so how are you going to orchestrate or organize the class when it is split in two? How are you going to teach two classes at once? At no point in time did we say that any one teacher will be teaching two classes at the same time. So of course, if we are going to meet face to face, there will be adjustment to the timetable. And I am certain if you were experiencing the online experience last term, you would know that some of the classes were split in two and there were separate teachers until we decided to merge some of those classes, and the teacher we had one teacher for one class when it was merged. So our intention is to split the classes again. And so we will have two teachers for a particular class. So I hope that answers your question for that one.
I think, Basco, you had your hand up. Please ask a question, Basco. Danar?
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. My question has been answered already. Someone asked a similar question.
Okay, no problem. I'm seeing another from one Miss Lorraine. What is the plan of action should a suspected case of COVID show up? Okay, so we are working closely, as I said, with the Ministry of Health and Wellness. We have an isolation unit. We currently have a nurse and we have a health and wellness center. As soon as any suspected case arises, that student will be pulled from the general student population and isolated. The parent will be called and the Ministry of Health, the hospital will be called. We have those numbers. They will be called and information will be given as to how we proceed. But the child will be isolated. In the isolation unit, the parent will be contacted. The parent is to come on the compound as quickly as possible. We are giving you 15 to 20 minutes to get here, depending on where you are, and remove your child from the compound and get your child looked after with serious urgency at the nearest health department or at the hospital. I hope that answers your question. Is there another question?
Yes, the cost. The person with the... Somebody need to mute their mic there, please. Okay, there's one question here that says, the cost to get the internet at home for my child to be able to be a part of active virtual classes cost more than the school fee. And now I should find more money for the school fee. This is a lot in this pandemic.
That is a concern, Mrs. McDermott, and we know and we have been saying that many of our parents have been going through the struggles and the challenges of the pandemic. But at this point, we really just have to say what is to be said. I cannot say to you not to pay the school fee because we need the school fees in order to operate effectively and efficiently here. What I can say to you is that you can reach out to us and we can have a plan in place for you. But first and foremost, I think it is very important that you put in the necessary things in place for your child for the online virtual aspect at home, because in any case, we will be doing a blended approach wherein we have some amount of face-to-face and some amount of virtual classes. And your child will be left behind if your child is unable to keep up with the virtual aspect. And that we don't want. So I am saying to you as a parent, you have to decide in some instances and prioritize there. There is a Mrs. Williams Wallace. Hand is up, I think.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. Just a quick question. I got on late. Sorry about that. I'm just asking, when are you thinking of going face-to-face? Please.
Okay, we are going to do a brief review of the options again and of our proposal right after we take additional questions. If there are no other questions, I'll just ask Mrs. McDermott to just go through again those options, the proposal, so that those parents who were late, they will have an opportunity to hear what we were discussing.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions? Okay, there being no other questions. Mr. Oh, Mrs. Beckford Coley, do you have any other questions?
I'm seeing one from Miss Geddes that's saying, will there be someone available throughout the day ensuring that the students keep on their mask?
That cannot be a duty or responsibility of any one person. All persons on the compound, which will be inclusive of our teachers and other staff members, academic and non-academic, will be seeing to that.
I must also mention, Mrs. Ford Brand, that we expect the students to be responsible also. This is about their health as well as the health of all the persons that they will come in contact with. So
Yes,
we do expect you to comply with the protocols, not because somebody is watching you or somebody is going to tell you to do, but all of us will have to be responsible.
Yes. Point taken. This is a serious engagement, and I want everybody to understand how serious it is and how important it is for all of us to work together to ensure that this works. So it is not a Morant Bay High School responsibility. It is not a teacher responsibility. It is a partnership. It is all of us responsibility to ensure that we practice the necessary protocols. It is a serious matter.
Okay, can I ask Mr. Logan to show the slides now?
Are you seeing it? I have them up.
I'm seeing the agenda. You can move on.
Hold on, let me start sharing again. Are you seeing the proposal now?
No, still the agenda.
Still just the agenda? I don't know why it's not.
We're seeing.
You may want to go to slide view, Mr. Logan.
Okay, yes, we're there now, Mr. Logan. Thank you very much. Okay, so for those who came in late, this is a proposal. Beginning next week, we will have virtual classes for all students. And we are going to be continuing with the same timetable you used last term. Then on January 18, this is our proposal, bearing in mind that we are still waiting on the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Education to give us the permission. But we are planning nonetheless that if we get that permission, January 18, 2021, our 5th and 6th formers will come in for face-to-face interaction. All other students will be online for classes. Then on January 25th, the 4th formers will join the 5th and 6th formers for face-to-face interaction. The 1st to 3rd during this time will be having virtual classes. Next slide, Mr. Logan. For the entire month of January, the entire month of February, we are going to be having the 5th, the 6th formers and the 4th formers having face-to-face interaction. 5 weeks for the 5th and 6th, 4 weeks for the 4th formers. And during this time, the lower school, 1st to 3rd form, will be having virtual classes. Then on March 1, we are planning to have the lower school beginning their face-to-face interaction. That's March 1. Now we have two options. And as I mentioned, it came about because there's one group that is saying, we want balance, we want equity. And there's another group that is saying the 6th formers, 5th formers, and 4th formers deserve to have more face-to-face time. So the first option, option 1, we propose that for week 1, the lower school will come in face-to-face, and week 2, the upper school will come in face-to-face, and then we will repeat that. Option 2, we are proposing that the lower school will come in 3 days for the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Thursday and Friday, we will allow the 4th, 5th, and 6th formers to come in face-to-face. And also for the second week, we'll allow the 4th, 5th, and 6th formers to come in face-to-face. So for option 2, we are giving the upper school 7 days for face-to-face and 3 days to the lower school for face-to-face. And then we will rotate and the process will be repeated. So parents, students, those of you who were not here earlier on, as I mentioned, a Google form is being prepared wherein you can make your voices heard and your options, you can select your options. Okay. I will then move on just to remind students that tomorrow will be our Founders Day and prize giving. We begin at 10 o'clock and you are all expected to log on. This is a school event. And so we are asking that you log on and view the Founders Day and prize giving. We will be sending the link very shortly so that everybody can be a part of this. Parents, you're also invited to log on and to view. Now, based on what we have said here, in closing, I just want to say to you students that the transition from virtual to face will not be automatic. Mr. Logan told you that you need to be prepared. You need to be prepared emotionally and mentally. And you heard that you need to be prepared physically. I'm just going to give you some hint that you can practice to ensure that you gain that momentum so that when you come back to school, you will not seem to be distracted, because I can tell you one thing. I've had reasons to be with students, and I find out that based on the fact that they have not been in the classroom for these many months, they are restless and they are not focused. So I'm going to ask you to assist yourself in building that momentum so that when you return to school, you will be ready for school. First of all, wake up the usual time when you are coming to school face-to-face. I know that for virtual classes, some of you were right there in your beds. I saw one young miss one day and she had on her school blouse, but then she shifted her device and I realized that she had on her pajama with her school blouse and she was in bed. So I'm going to ask of you, wake up the usual time. If you usually get up 5 o'clock, start getting up 5 o'clock. Don't wait until March 1st to get up 5 o'clock. You are not going to fit in. The adjustment needs to be gradual. I want you to be organized. So this is how you come to school with your bags of books and so on. For that area where you have your class, go there organized just as you would go to school. Be disciplined. It means that you are not going to be snacking right throughout the day, because when you return to school, you will not be allowed to do that. So you'll not be snacking right through the day. Practice your lunch session. Well, as you heard, you'll not be having a break session. So practice your having your good breakfast, going for 4 sessions, having your lunch. Practice that from now. Manage your time well. Practice the bathroom breaks. Yes, Mrs. Fortman?
Let me just interject. Sorry for the interruption. But with that said, with the breakfast, if they are unable to eat their breakfast at home for fear of not reaching here on time, we are imploring them to package it and take it with them. Because they may not be accustomed to, and they are not accustomed to not having a break and a lunchtime. So we need them to have something. We will try to see how flexible we can be, but we don't want to hear, Miss or Sir, I left my breakfast because I was late. Package it, take it with you. Thank you very much.
Yes, thanks for that. All right, now I'm going to ask students that you practice wearing your mask. It might not be for long periods of time, but let it be gradual. But you need to practice so that you can see what difficulty you will encounter and how best you can deal with it. I know many of you are at home. You might not go out on the road, or even if you do, it might not be regular. So I'm going to ask, practice wearing your mask. And remember that when you return to school, you're going to be wearing the mask. So let those be a part of the preparation for back to school. Now, we want you to think COVID. I know that not seeing your friends for almost a year. Well, it will be a year when you return in March, that you might not be seeing some of your classmates and your friends. But remember the social distance. We have to practice the social distance. Remember also that there's a wearing of the mask, social distancing, and all the other protocols that we need to practice. We want everybody to be safe. We are aware of the risks in asking you to come back to school. We are aware of the risk not just for you students, but for us as teachers, and as I mentioned, all the other persons who are on the compound. So safety is paramount. And I'm just going to ask each and every one of you to remember that trust in God. One parent mentioned it in the chat. We might not all be ready to come back. We might be fearful. I know that there are some of you who are fearful, but I'm going to encourage you. Trust in God. Believe, ask Him to keep you safe, and believe it. And I am sure He will. I just want to thank you for being a part of this meeting. I want to thank you for your input, parents. And as we go forward, remember, we are all in this thing together. We are going to work it out. With your help, with God's help, we are going to work it out. I must say special thanks to Mrs. Ford Bryan for being here. And just to mention to those of you parents and probably students who are not aware, Mrs. Ford Bryan is now our acting principal. So thank you very much, Mrs. Ford Bryan, for your input and for answering the questions so well.
You're welcome.
I am sure that the parents understand better. Thank you, Mr. Logan. And for all of you who are here, thank you very much for being here. Let us work together to make this a very good year. Thank you all. The meeting is now terminated.
Oh. Oh, Mrs. McDermott, everything is finished?